Hey.
Awesome. Hey, it's Dave Lisinski, the Esoteric Nerd, and I am very excited. I am extraordinarily excited to be here interviewing Heather Lindemenn this morning. And you can learn more about Heather Lindemenn, not only from listening to this awesome interview, but from her website, heatherlindemann.com. But Heather, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about what you are actually doing right now, what you have sort of up your sleeve in regards to what people are going to come across if they jump onto your website here in the next couple months.
Ah, well, the fact that you mentioned heatherlindemann.com is a very exciting thing for me to even hear because what's going on for me is I have, for the last several years, been working in this really beautiful way with women here in San Diego. And my business has been called Circle, and we've been working in a circle format. And Circle to me is a very powerful image and a very powerful symbol. And for my own personal resourcing, I travel to India and work with some amazing teachers there. And the last time I came home from India, it was like a full-on game changer for me. I came home in April of 2013. And there I had been working very hard, doing my seva and my service with all of these women, and also building my business for myself. And I saw this image of a circle on a whiteboard. It was like
Mm,
vision I was having. This is the kind of relationship
nice.
I have with my divine. So I saw my branding, my logo, right?
I like it. I like it.
And all of a sudden, the divine approached this whiteboard and began to erase it. They
Ah,
began to erase this circle. And I sat there like, you've got to be kidding me. And I had a tremendous amount of fear and disappointment and resistance. Like at this moment, not even trusting what I was seeing because
right.
I had so much built up around my idea of this circle and my idea of this business and what my mindset it had to be. And and then I sat with it, Dave. I just stayed with this empty space on this whiteboard. I was pissed at my divine and I hung out with it. And then in as the moments passed, I mean, this is a real deal thing that just happened to me very recently. As the moments passed, I began to receive a vision. I began to receive how it is that the divine as it resides inside of me, which is something we can, of course, talk about,
Mm-hmm.
was showing me its way for me, its vision for me, rather than my own vision of kind of cookie cutter how things should go, because certainly that was an element in what I've been doing because we're all just doing our best, right? And the divine just basically took over and said, all right, what you've done is amazing and what you've been offering is amazing, and let me show you this. And it went it
Wow.
was massive and it's new
Yeah.
and it's scary. So what I've been cooking up and what's coming and what people will find at heatherlindemann.com very soon is an entirely new way that I'll be working with not only women, but men and couples for some time to come. So,
Awesome. Hey, I might have to come in and visit you.
well, I think you should.
Awesome. Well, you said a lot of beautiful things there, and I do want to pick your brain a little more about this divine stuff. But before we get into that, being interested in the more esoteric spiritual things like you know I am, I'm going to ask you if this is a history you have with having visions, like you did with the circle being erased. You can go back and maybe talk to me a little bit about some of your earliest experiences that you've had with visions, intuitive guidance, or you can just pick anything that you want to share in regards to that inner knowing or seeing that you seem to get sometimes, and tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, my sense, my experience of working with hundreds of people is that we all have this intuitive ability and that we are all, in fact, receiving these visions and these images and these what seem like almost like fantasies of our mind. And
Yeah, I have a few fantasies. I won't share those now.
let's keep it clean. Let's keep it clean.
Good point.
Who says nerds aren't sexy?
That's true.
Um, so these visions and these images for me have been happening my whole life. And it wasn't until I started working with a teacher probably about 12 years ago, that she helped me, this teacher helped me to learn to trust that these visions and these symbols I was seeing, and almost like little clips of movies, or were in fact how the divine was relating with me, was in fact how life was guiding me. But I had spent so many years going to psychics, seeking guidance from other people, because I trusted their guidance more than I trusted my own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how I learned to trust those visions was for me personally, was being with a teacher that guided me very easily and very effortlessly, almost like a child. It was almost like just very childlike. It was just like, write down what you're seeing, write down what you're hearing, because we receive this guidance in different ways. All of us, our nervous systems are different. We're geared a little differently. And so some people might hear it. Some people might, kind of see it even though their eyes are open, or they might feel it in their bodies. And so she helped me really hone in on how these messages were coming to me. And from that, which is a little bit of a longer story, then creating a very strong relationship and bond with what is God or the divine or source for me, right? And then I would just directly communicate with that, right? And now that thing that's the God thing, or the source, all that is, it's pretty trippy, because it is me and I am it, and yet I oftentimes relate to it as it's something separate, because it's a very easy channel for me to receive guidance for myself and for others.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, and obviously we have more details to get into, but one of the reasons why I enjoy doing these interviews and putting them out there for people is because, a lot of reasons, but you just said something huge twice, and that was trust. A lot of this sixth sense, intuitive, psychic type of powers, I will call them, or superpowers, if you will, that are very real, and they're very helpful for us to use as human beings. But by far, I agree with you, at least for me, the most challenging thing has been that trust. It's like, it's there, but is that real? Am I really seeing that? So I appreciate you bringing that up. So one more question before we get into the divine, and I may want to ask you some questions about this awakening stuff as well. If you can remember, what is one of the most significant visual experiences or intuitive experiences that you've had, other than this circle being erased? Can you think of another, at any age, spiritual experience even, that you can call on, that you could tell us about?
Well, I
put you on the spot a little bit, I know, but
no, that's all right. Let me just close my eyes for a second and see what comes that would be important to talk about and to share about today. So give me just 1 second, and this is a way that I tap into my guidance. Is I'll just close my eyes and take a deep breath. So. All right. Well, an important happening came about just a couple of years ago. And of course, they've been happening for a long time, but this one feels important to share. I was getting ready to move to Bali. I was getting ready to move to Indonesia.
wow.
And I was single at the time. I had gone through a divorce, and I was ready for a change. And I had some friends that lived there, so it wasn't like I was completely jumping off the cliff,
Right.
Shortly, my plans were in place, and in order for me to get there, I was selling a portion of a business I had owned. That amount of money that was coming from the sale of the business was going to fund my trip, my living there, getting established and all of that. So there was a lot riding on the sale of this business, and it was more or less just a done deal. I was going to sell it to some friends. They were excited about it. I'd already started to train them in this business. It was just really more or less a signing of the contract and an exchange of monies, and they were waiting on some funds to come through. So in the meantime, I met this man. And like I said, I had been single. I wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship, but
Men, they get in the way, don't they?
You know what, you guys? So I met this man, And okay, so I had plans. I'm moving out of the country. All my ducks are in a row. And then I'm here in San Diego and I meet this man. And this was not just any old guy. This was a really special man. And I found myself in the most massive amount of conflict because, I'm this independent woman, and what am I going to do? Give up all my plans to stay home for a guy, that I barely know. And I was really feeling conflicted, and I wasn't trusting my own guidance at all because there were these two major things, that hold a lot of collateral: adventure, excitement, new life in Bali, adventure, excitement, new life, and new relationship, love. We all want that.
Yeah.
And so I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to my highest self, and I said, you have to make this decision for me, and I need to hear you loud and clear because I can't right now. And the next day was a Tuesday, and I was in my office in Encinitas, and the phone rings. And it was my friend who they were supposed to sign the contracts and exchange monies on the next day, which was a Wednesday. And she's in tears and she's crying. And she says to me, we can't buy the business. She has her reasons. We can't buy this business. So the only way that I was able to go to Bali,
wow,
sale of this business. So, you're asking me about something internal that happened or a vision that happened. Well, I want people to understand that life is the waking dream, that life is the moving experience of communication from what I call the divine or highest self.
Yeah.
And so because I couldn't pull it from inside, for me, and it was so important, I asked my highest self, you got to freaking show me. And my divine said, okay, give me 24 hours. Here it is. And in that moment, I realized, so the money was gone. I couldn't do the move. I had to stay. And I knew that I was meant to be here to serve the heart of this.
Beautiful. Oh, and what a lucky man that guy is.
Hey, and now he's my husband.
Wow. Well, I love that story, and I love it because it is an important reminder that a lot of times our prayers are answered. In this case, you were conscious enough to see that the falling through of the deal was one of the ways your divine showed up. Oftentimes, people out there, and I know I've been there, we pray or we put an intention out there, and we think it's going to come in a certain way, and we think it's never answered when there's all kinds of stuff going on in the landscape of our life. And I think that is an important thing for people listening to understand, is that a lot of times it is this environment that is our life where that's the field, that's the playground, and that's where the prayers are being answered. Yes. So not so much maybe a smack in the back of the head with the words being in your, whispered in your ears necessarily. So.
Yes. And Dave, you just brought up something so important.
Yeah.
So important. I think we're onto something that we should talk about a little bit more I have a lot of clients who come to see me and they want to learn how to be more intuitive, and they want to learn how to be, open up their third eye and hear their inner voice. And the very first step we take for that, because that's awesome if you want to be psychic and you want to help people know, what might be happening for them in the future. But oftentimes these people that come to me, they can't pay their freaking bills. Their relationships are in a total massive shambles. Their relationships with their families, themselves, their bodies, their partners, their ex-partners, like things kind of, excuse my French, but life is generally a little bit of a shitstorm. So it's first things first, let's learn, trusting in what's silent, having faith in what you can't see. That's hard. Yeah. That is really hard. So life is actually making it so much easier for us because it's, like you said, the landscape of your life. Life is communicating with us constantly. It's like I want this answer. And it shows up in life and we don't notice it because we're expecting it to come from a different place. And so this field of intuition, this field of guidance that's available to us is literally our experience. It's what is happening right in front of us.
That's right.
And
It's a beautiful realization, and one that's hard to grasp oftentimes, especially for anyone out there listening who is new to this type of information. But, while you're sitting there thinking about developing your intuition, you can certainly contact Heather, you can contact myself. But while you're waiting to do that, if you could find some type of meditation practice. And the reason why I say that, listeners, is because if you can at least begin to decrease the stress in the nervous system, that will help you when you begin to practice using your intuition. So while you're waiting to do some official intuition work, you might as well start meditating. So let's go back to this my divine. When I first started hearing you talk about this within the oneness programs and the oneness stuff and the Deeksha stuff, it really caught my attention, and I've been doing a lot of work with it since. Why don't you share anything that comes to mind that you think should be shared in regards to this idea of establishing a relationship with my divine? What is that all about?
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Well, jackpot.
Thanks, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So we've all heard the word God, right? Then when we're in the more spiritual communities or esoteric language, we hear this higher self or the all that is or my divine, the divine source, all these different names. And then we have beautiful, amazing forces of Christ and Buddha and Kuan Yin and masters and saints of all religions and angelic forces and all of these ones, right? So this divine is our truth, and it's our, what I call it, like my divine for me is my MVP. I realized most of my life I had freaking benched my MVP, and I was trying to play the game and win the game all by myself, and I would
major coaching mistake.
Major coaching mistake, right? Like, dude, I got this, or do that, whatever it is. I got it. And so when I was, some of us were raised in church and different things, but when I ended up in India in 2011 at this spiritual school, and they were saying, let's create a relationship for your MVP, for your personal superhero. Yes, God is in everything, and God is all that is. And God is, God is in this book. It's everywhere, right? Love poems to God, by the way.
Okay, can't beat that.
But does this book help me pay my bills? If God is in this book, does this book help me find clients? Does this book help me find my vision? Help me in my relationship when I'm pissed off at my husband or myself? No, it doesn't. They introduced me to this idea of how about creating the aspects of your own, I call it my own superhero, my own most valuable player, the one that can help me the most, right? Just make it like a fantasy. What does this person need to be? What does this source thing need to be? And some people get a little tripped out. They're like, it's God. How can you talk about it that way? How can you create your own God? I don't get it, because maybe they were taught and introduced that God is bigger and maybe looms over them and they have to be good for God and that's sort of sacrilegious. And I maybe had a little bit of that myself. Like, how could that possibly be? And but I thought, with exercise, I'm going to go ahead and play with it. I needed some help in my life. I needed help with money. I needed help with relationships. So I'm going to give this divine these aspects that can help me with these certain things. And then I'm going to create a relationship with it, is what we were guided to do. So you and I, Dave, we're friends. We have a relationship. We meet for coffee. We share what's on our hearts, right? We confide in each other. We create a bond. We've created a friendship together. We have trust for each other, right? Those elements, I was being taught, are incredibly important in my relationship with this God or with this source. So it's like, fine. A lot of people are doing this law of attraction thing. They're like trying to reprogram themselves, and they're saying these mantras over and over and over and over and over again. And it's just them. It's just them in their mind. It's just them, right?
Yeah.
those are beautiful things. But what I did was I empowered this radically powerful source to go to work for me. So this image, oh, I'm sorry, this image
Okay.
like I was a baby in the arms of this God that I was creating. And I began to become aware that babies are, their needs are taken care of. A baby doesn't say, hey, I want you to change my diaper, and this is exactly how I want it to be changed. And before you do it, I want to know what your strategy is to change.
Right.
And I want to know what the timing is going to be. You know, a baby needs its diaper changed. It communicates to its source, its parents. Its diaper is changed, right? A baby
Yep.
needs to be fed. It's fed. A baby isn't expected to walk from its crib to the grocery store. It's cradled. It's placed in a beautiful, soft pram and wrapped up in blankets. You know,
Yeah.
delivered
Beautiful. It's a beautiful metaphor.
on its way.
Yeah.
And so I asked my divine, I want you to be my parent. And it happened to be what I really needed in my life too. And that's another aspect. I'm going to be launching an amazing 21-day program on creating a relationship with this divine. All the things that have helped me, you know, P.S. that's coming, but let's do it right now for just a second. Okay.
Great.
All right. So let's go ahead and close our eyes. And let's, everyone who's watching, close your eyes. And just so you know, we're not watching you because we're home. Deep breath. And first and foremost, come up with 5 things that you really need to happen in your life. Money, relationships, health. Maybe you really want to start a new meditation practice like Dave is speaking of, and you just don't know where the time is going to come from. Maybe you're experiencing inner conflict and you would like to experience inner peace. And now I'd like you to imagine, cook up the most amazing parent. Whose arms do you want to be in? And now we're not talking about your mere mortal parents. This is a supreme parent. This is a supreme parent who will give you everything, who will do everything for you. There's no limitations on what this parent will give you, on what this source will gift you. This is a way, one way to create a relationship with the divine. Let's play with this one for right now. This parent has endless financial resources. This parent is powerful. This parent has unconditional love for you. Unconditional love for you. There's not one thing that you can do that will turn this parent's love away from you. And this parent spoils you rotten. And an interesting thing to do is practice a little inner integrity as we do this exercise. Notice what comes up inside of you. Could be, I'm not worthy of being spoiled. It could be a lot of charges around your actual parent here on earth. Just be aware. That's a whole other practice, this awareness. But let's go back to having fun with our supreme parent who will do everything for us. And now I'd like you to see yourself in their arms. Now, as this supreme parent looks down on you, it doesn't expect you to pay bills. It doesn't expect you to change your own diaper. It doesn't expect you to do anything because you are its child. For this child, for you in the arms of God, as we spoke about earlier, life is happening automatically. For children, for babies, life happens automatically. There's no doing. There's no doer. So just be with your source, be with your supreme parent. ask the Supreme Parent to take care of the 5 things that you have listed. Take care of them, handle them for me. Now take a nice deep breath and open your eyes when you're ready. And the last thing I want to say about this is, in this specific visualization, we're adults and we're living in this world. We have to do things for ourselves. What happens is, when we put the divine in charge, the source or high self, Christ, your favorite word, input, when we put that in charge, life begins to happen automatically. So this interview that I'm having with you right now, Dave, is part of that for me, because I'm getting ready to launch an entirely new way of working with people, and I'm going to be working with folks from around the world. So how else, in this vision that the divine has given me, how else can I communicate with those folks? How else can I let them know what's in my heart that's bursting and ready to be shared? It has to be through being interviewed. You know, I can't just sit in my living room and be a good teacher and be someone who has something to share that might be valuable to a lot of people and have no way to communicate that. So the way that the divine, my divine Supreme Parents are working in my life right now is by your invitation to be interviewed.
Beautiful.
Right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. I want to reiterate one point that you touched upon, I think just before and just after that exercise, and it really, I'll call it self-nurturance. There is a major issue of people not nurturing themselves, and one of the problems I have found with a lack of self-nurturance is that it causes one to go and rely too heavily on things outside of themselves for that self-nurturance, meaning other people and other relationships. So to understand that as you're building relationships, it is definitely okay to nurture oneself, whether that is treating oneself to a better relationship with your divine and all the benefits that come, whether it's buying that toy you wanted for a while, whether it's treating yourself to a massage, whatever it is that allows one to feel loved and nurtured should be being built, and we can't all be martyrs walking around thinking that that's not okay. So, and all of this stuff that you're talking about, especially number one on the list, this connection that we build with our divine, not only is it benefiting us, but it really is benefiting anyone else in your life, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have this concept of the begging bowl. And my dog is jumping up on the couch right now. She wants to be in the interview.
Understandable.
So we come to Earth, you know, we're these humans, and we come with this empty begging bowl, right? And we come to each other with this empty bowl, and I say to you, you know, say we're going to be in a relationship, you know, Dave, I need love. You need to love me. I need you to love me, and, you know, fill my bowl. And you have the exact same bowl, and you're shoving it in my face saying, fill this bowl, fill this empty bowl. We spend our relationships creating this negotiation for love. Well, if you give me this, I'll give you that. Well, I'm not getting enough. Well, neither am I. So we're constantly negotiating for nothing. We're negotiating that I'll give you actually nothing that I have to give. And so when we just even try to have a relationship with Source or with God, we begin to become filled with this unconditional love and nurturing from this supreme invisible place, right? We fill up that which we're looking for. So then I can come out into life and I can come to you, and with this bowl is full, right? It's full of love, and it continues to be filled not from you, not being burdening you to fill it, but it's being filled from the divine. That's, you know, we think like Source comes from above. It's actually, you know, coming from inside. That's another conversation, but yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. And then what happens to people is that have these connections, they're special people, aren't they? Because they walk around and they're full, and you can tell that they're relying on an endless source of love. Like it's just kind of there. Doesn't mean they're always nice. I'm not always nice.
Yeah. Well, I know that for sure.
That is the ultimate wellspring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if people can just continue that metaphor for a moment and realize what, even if the people listening can think of an interpersonal relationship they have now, what it would be like to be in that relationship with a full bowl versus an empty one. And the key to filling that is really that self-nurturance and that connection with the divine. So very, very good way of explaining that. I appreciate it. So we are, believe it or not, getting to the point of the interview being over. We really talked about a lot of beautiful things. Before we finish and sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to share about you, your business, or anything else coming to mind? And if there isn't, that's certainly okay.
You know what I would love to share is
Please.
what I share every single session I have, and it flows through me in every conversation that I have these days. Something very special happened to me when I was in India in April of this 2013, and this permanent shift happened in my brain, and I'm perceiving and experiencing life and God in a very different way these days. It's quite beautiful, and this shift came about by a transfer of grace called Deeksha, or the Wise Blessing. I would love to send an intent blessing to you, Dave.
Oh, great.
So much, and also to anyone that watches this. And so just to tell you before we do it, Deeksha is a transfer of grace from your divine. It's a transfer of love and blessings from what is God for you, or what is source for you. And it has a very specific intent, this Deeksha. It is for awakening and for the realization of God or source. And what it does is it helps you to become incredibly aware of what's happening inside. And this conflict that happens in the mind, which keeps us from trusting this internal guidance, that settles down. And you're able to really hear and experience what's going on inside of the body. And so I offer this in every single session and
Right.
all of the retreats. It's just constantly flowing, but let's do it now.
Let's do it. Let's finish with that. That'd be beautiful.
If for anyone other than just to simply close your eyes, and if you would like, you can focus on the center of your chest, which is your heart center. Some believe that this is the seat of God or the house of God, and if you don't believe, that's totally fine. It's no big deal. If you have a relationship with a source, or if you'd like to find yourself back in the arms of your supreme parent, that's a really good time to do that now. And take a nice deep breath. For a moment, I'm going to be silent, so just keep your eyes closed and stay in silence. And everyone can take a nice deep breath. Open your eyes. Thank you, Dave.
Oh, thank you for your time, and it was wonderful. Just a half an hour, such great information shared about such important things. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you for what you're doing. It's
Oh, yeah.